Oh, I probably should have made this higher, otherwise really low. Why hello. So I'm wearing my glasses, and I don't like to wear my glasses in videos because usually it gives me this reflection. So I was almost done editing this video before realizing that I should probably actually do an intro for this one because it is a Book of Shadows video. And I think that a lot of people don't really know what that is, or they have their own interpretations of it, so I wanted to explain what mine is and what I do and why. So a Book of Shadows is kind of like the equivalent of those faith journals that are always around. I always see a lot of videos for faith journals, and mine is kind of like that. It's supposed to be kind of like your witchy things journal, where you write down anything that you're learning as you practice your craft, things that you want to make note of, things that you're trying to remember. Example, if you're learning how to read tarot, you could put notes down about your readings or ways that a certain card is coming up in it for you. At least that's what I understood it to be. I think that people have different interpretations of it, and that's okay too. If I'm getting this right, then your Book of Shadows should be that one where you're like, oh, this card keeps coming up for me, but this time it looks like it means this, but last time it meant this, and it's in a different position. So I think that I'm moving partly through this phase, and you can kind of journal about it and write about it, and then later, if you were ever like, wasn't there a period of time 2 years ago when I was having this experience, then you could go through your Book of Shadows and be like, that's right, that's what that card meant then. Funny, because I'm repeating that cycle. Well, that's why I like having one. The difference between a Book of Shadows and a Grimoire is how I think it's pronounced, is that the Book of Shadows is like these are the things I'm noticing, these are patterns I'm receiving, these are messages that I'm getting in dreams, these are things that I'm feeling really strongly about, or things I'm noticing about my intuition, all that kind of stuff. And then your Grimoire would be when you like finalized a practice, a spell, or a ritual, and you would put that in there as like it'd be like I don't want to say fact, because it's not like, you can't really say that any like religious thing or spiritual thing is fact, but it's kind of like your facts. Like if you were having some kind of like practice and you wanted to pass it down to somebody, I would put things together in a grimoire for my daughter to have one day in her practice, so that she would know what resonated very strongly with me and worked effectively for me, so that she could maybe use that to start her practice. And then as she did those things and kind of like got more connected to the things that she's connected to, she could jot those notes down in a Book of Shadows. Every new moon and every full moon, I write down what the spread is, what sign the moon is in. So for example, the last one was a full moon in Capricorn. I write down what I find online that means, because I don't know just off the top of my head, but I'm hoping that over time that I'll get better at that. If I have a tea and I'm associating specific herbs with this time period, I will brew that tea and write it down into my Book of Shadows. And then I also find tarot spreads that kind of just resonate with me, that I can do beforehand and reflect on it, sometimes with a tea, and write down what I am going to do for the full moon and the new moon. The thing with full moons and new moons, full moons are for releasing, new moons are for starting. So with a full moon, I usually look at, okay, well, what did I start last new moon that needs to be released? And then I jot that down and I think about it. After the full moon, I work on releasing those things, and then when the new moon comes again, I can think, now that these things have been released, what can I dedicate more time to? Or what can I shift my focus toward? And then I keep doing that for 2 weeks, and then if there's another full moon, I can think, okay, well, what are the obstacles that I faced in the last 2 weeks that I need to be real with myself about? Then I focus on like targeting those, like really pinpointing those down, and then releasing those things. And it is a very long process. My current Book of Shadows, I just finished with this last spread. It took me 2 years because I was not very consistent, and I wasn't very consistent because it would be the same things over and over. I was not the best at being my own parent, I guess, reparenting myself. There was a lot of inner child stuff that I had to really get into. So I feel like I am getting better at that, but I wanted to go ahead and explain what this book is for me and what I'm doing, And why I go ahead and show it, because I also see the collaging and journaling part as a part of my ritual. If I draw in it, doodling, just making the spread in general is a part of my ritual, because I believe that art is magic and that creativity is magic. And that's why I care so much about intention while creating, because I do think that what you infuse into your creations is really important, and that you need to like make sure that you fill it up with love and joy and all the best things ever, just the best intentions that you possibly can, because somebody else is going to see that and feel that. My spreads aren't really made to make anybody else feel anything. It is a very personal thing, which is how come I often do like hide things into pockets or put things into little spots. It doesn't have to be for anybody else. Some people say to not have anybody ever look at your book of shadows, but a lot of the time, the stuff that I write down is very much like, okay, the full moon in Capricorn represents da 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 da. And it was stuff that I found on Google anyway, or through a book or Pinterest, or somebody else said it. And so it's not like it's, I don't know, it's not like it's secret. The Book of Shadows is personal, yes, because you can say, oh, this makes sense. This is what I've been experiencing. But it's not, a lot of mine isn't very secret. And I'm also down just to tell anybody anything that I'm going through, because that's a part of my whole shtick. Just wanting to be transparent all the time, which is a much longer conversation. Better go ahead and stop this, because I was already finished editing the other video and I don't want to make this too long. So if all of that sounds good to you, then I hope you enjoy seeing the process.
The first thing I do is find some tarot spreads. I go to Intarospection on Instagram because she always posts a bunch of relevant spreads, and then I find what resonates with me most. I usually screenshot a bunch and then I pick.
I'm actually going to use the Archer and Olive notepad.
Once I've picked my favorites, I write those spreads down, and then I spend some time reflecting on what it means for me after I do the spread. So I'll write down what the cards are and journal about it, and then I'll put those little kind of journal entries into the book later. And I'll make sure I put all of those in the description. I started off with the Distress Oxide Tim Holtz ink and vintage paper, but honestly when I did this, I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of a light brown and I really wanted it to be darker, so I switched to this Versa color, and I think that that darker brown just made the page look a lot better and ready for collaging. I do like that ink, but it just doesn't always look right. Look how cool that is. It's one of the little cranes I made, and it looks so neat. Lately I've been really into using tracing paper, just for collaging, for envelopes, for everything. After the onion skin journal, I got way into having everything be semi-translucent or translucent, so I've kind of just kept that vibe going. I have everything organized into binders, which I can show later if you're interested, and then I pick through and find the ephemera that I want, scraps that I want, and keep on collaging. I needed color, so I added some green ink just here and there. I decided to go ahead and remove this sticker because I actually wanted to put it on a pocket instead. I thought it looked so much better once I put it on the pocket, and then I put that pocket back into the collage. If I attach things in with washi tape, then it gives me kind of a little door. Then I started writing things out with my acrylograph pens from Archer and Olive. They're fine-tipped acrylic pens.
My notepad. I think I've been too rough with it. Nervous.
This is where I journaled all of my thoughts and reflections on those tarot spreads, so I wanted to keep them inside of the book. This is the finished product. This is my full moon in Capricorn spread. I have stamps, what this specific full moon represents, the fact that it's called a strawberry full moon. Oops, I didn't put the date down. About reparenting myself to be the caretaker that I always wanted, so that I could kind of, raise myself to be who I need to be. I have my tarot reflections in here, the tarot spreads and what the cards were, and then a little spot just in case something comes up. And I wrote it all on my onion skin notepad because I just love the way, I just love writing longer notes on that paper. There we are. Yeah.
So when I recorded that, I realized that I also didn't record an outro. And it's not that I want to have an outro regularly, but I do want to say thanks for watching. My name is Ren. welcome to Grunge Granny. If you like it here, then I hope you stick around. If you feel like any of this resonated with you, cool, let me know how. And if it didn't, and you have questions, ask them. Always feel free to ask questions. If there is something that I did that you don't understand, or if you're confused on something that I'm doing with my collage, or what my Book of Shadows is, or why, or what the spreads are, maybe, you know, go ahead and feel free to ask. I'm not going to judge other people on what they believe, and I am trusting that people wouldn't judge me for what I believe. Ultimately, I believe that we're all just trying, and we're all trying to heal anything from our pasts in the ways that we can. And this is one of the ways that I work on it, is through this book and through journaling and through making things and through art. I think that doesn't invite much judgment, but I don't know, it's the internet, you never know. I don't even know why is it taking so long? Why can't I like wrap this up? Why can't I wrap it up? Okay, I'm just gonna be done. Thank you, bye.